Well, it's good to be back. I'm really anxious to preach today. Haven't preached for 4 Sundays. So when it gets to be about 2 o'clock, maybe we can begin to shut down. People ask if I had a nice vacation, and I told them, I said, my mind is totally vacant. I'm really trying to remember where I am and what I'm supposed to be about. Perhaps today I can share with you a message from the gospel. I'll start with a thought that's been said many times by many people, put into songs. It's a great thought, and the truth of it is universally accepted, I think. And that thought is this: life is not a destination, but a journey. That's something to think about. We're not actually going to any one place, because when we get to one place, we have to move on to another place. And in the Christian faith, we believe that life is eternal. We believe that we never stop living. We believe that we just go on and on and on. And the key question, of course, is whether we are going with Jesus or not going with Jesus. So today I would like to speak about that issue of what it means to follow Jesus. This is why Jesus said to His first disciples, He says it to us today through the Holy Spirit. He invites us to follow me. You heard it read this morning earlier. That's His simple invitation. Follow me. You know, He doesn't come to us and say, follow me to church. He didn't say a word about church. He said, follow me. He didn't say, follow me to the temple where we can read the Scriptures and learn about the Word of God. He didn't say a word about that. Nor did He say, follow me to help the poor, follow me to help the suffering. He didn't say a word about any of that. He said, follow me. We're going on a journey. We're not going to any one particular place. And we're not going to any one particular experience. We're going to go on a journey, an eternal journey. And I want you to go with me, Jesus says. And I will lead you every step of the way throughout all eternity. This is what Jesus says to us. And so we must stop and think a bit about it this morning. What does it really mean then to answer that call and say, I will follow Jesus. I will follow Him. It means a lot more than just copying Him or imitating Him or trying to act like Him. It means to literally follow Him through life, through the circumstances of your life, through the situations of your life, through the things that you have to face, through the things that you hear, through the things that you see. And all of those things that make up all of your life, you must be following Jesus through those things. Because in each and every one of them, Jesus has a message of love for you. He has a message of salvation for you. He has a message of redemption for you. And so it is that we need to learn this lesson today. What does it really mean to follow Jesus? And in addition to that, not only do we need to learn that, but we need to also learn what we can expect if we are to follow Jesus. What can we expect from following Jesus? Some people these days want to preach a gospel that says, well, if you follow Jesus, you can expect prosperity. You'll have plenty of money for your mortgage. You'll have plenty of money for your children to go to college. You'll never get sick. It'll all be wonderful if you follow Jesus. I don't think that's what it really means we can expect. There is something we can expect, however, if we follow Jesus. And I think today we also need to think a brief moment about what it means to follow Jesus and what we can expect as we follow Jesus. So these are the 2 things I want to talk about this morning. What does it mean to follow Jesus? And what can we expect when we follow Jesus? Now, those of you who have listened to me preach for a while know that I believe that life is filled with all kinds of stories. And every one of those stories is like a little parable that Jesus gives us to understand more clearly what His gospel is about. And so I go through my life collecting these stories so that I can share them with folks to help you understand a little more clearly what we need to understand about the gospel. Now, having gone on a journey myself recently for 4 long weeks and seen many, many wonderful things and enjoyed many things, I know what it is like to go on a journey. And in that journey, the stories I did find. I think I have about 20 years worth of stories. But today we'll begin with 2. That I want to share with you. The first one helps us to get into this issue and understand it more clearly. What does it really mean to follow? Follow, that's the word, follow Jesus. What does it really mean to do that? I call this story the Piccadilly Pickle. The first place we went on our last trip was to London. Had a glorious time there. Saw so many things I'd read about in history, so many things I had never seen but always understood was important to our heritage in the Western world. But anyway, as I prepared for this trip, I got to enjoy one of my great hobbies. Everybody has a hobby. I've seen women who have hobbies crocheting and knitting, and I can't understand how anybody can have a hobby doing that. Some people have hobbies doing all kinds of strange things. My brother, who was a fervent biologist, his hobby was collecting and dissecting earthworms. And on our trip in London, one of our guides told us about a professor from Cambridge whose hobby was collecting 12th and 13th century stones. Not 14th century or 15th century stones, but 12th and 13th century stones. I said to myself, what a strange hobby these are. Well, my hobby is, and I love to do this, that is planning trip logistics. You say, what kind of a hobby is that? Oh, but I love to do it. I love to plan every little detail about where I go when I go on a trip. It's so exciting. It's like working a crossword puzzle. That's what it is like for me. It's a mental relief to sit down and study all the places I'm going. How do their subways work? Where are the roads? Where am I going to be here? What restaurant shall I eat at? What hotel shall I go to? What's on the menu of that restaurant? And do I like that food or do I not like that food? By the time we left for this trip, I was going to bring it today, I had a book that was 35 pages long. Hour by hour by hour. Everything that was to be done, every taxi that was to be taken, every subway stop, everything was figured out. And at the end of the day, when we got back to our hotel, I would write a diary of what we did and then compare it to how I had planned it. Many times it was almost exact. But that was a thrill for me. I loved doing that. It really was one of my great hobbies. And so anyway, I spent time planning everything. The first few days we were in England, it was really great. The three days, everything went smooth. All the subways, all the train, every place we went was just exactly as I had envisioned it. But on the fourth day, we had to meet a tour. Early in the morning, it was about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning we had to meet, which is rush hour in the subway in London, you see. But I had planned it out. I knew exactly where we were supposed to go. Start at Tottenham Court Road, get on the subway there, go down to Piccadilly line, get on there, and go over to Piccadilly Circus. Very simple little journey, nothing to it. I had it together. But I decided we would leave 30 minutes early, so to make sure we got there on time. So we get into the Tottenham Court. We're going down the escalators, and I keep hearing this announcement going on and on. And so finally I decided, okay, it's all noisy and music and people are yelling and screaming, but I'll try to listen to the announcement. And finally I heard it droning on, Piccadilly line will be closed today due to industrial action, which is their word for a strike. I said, Piccadilly line is closed because of a strike? Nobody asked me. How can they close Piccadilly line? That's where I need to be. If I don't get there, I can't get to Piccadilly Circus. What am I going to do? I told Rebecca, I said, we're going to go there anyway. So we got off and went on up to try to change over to the Piccadilly line, and there were all those things that you go through, and every one of them had a red X, kind of getting the message across that you're not going to Piccadilly today. But there was a guard standing there, and I love these English guards. And we talked to several of them on different occasions and different places. They're so jolly and happy about everything. But I went up to him and I said, sir, I really need to get to Piccadilly Circus, and I need to get to the Piccadilly line. What am I going to do? And he kind of looked at me like, well, and then he said this expression they say in England, that's a bit of a pickle. And then he laughed to himself and said, it's a kind of a Piccadilly pickle, isn't it? That's about when he hit him over the head or something. I couldn't find. Didn't work out. He says, but don't worry, mate. It's not hard at all. It's a breeze, in matter of fact. He says, just go on over to the Circle line, take it 2 stops to the east, then get over to the District line, take it 2 stops to the west, and then get on the Upper Minster line and go 1 stop up, get off at Oxford Square, and then it's just a little wee walk to Piccadilly Circus. And I looked at him like a deer in the headlights. It's not in my plan. Never have I heard of these Upminster thing. I don't know what the world you could be talking about. But we had no choice. We had no choice. We had to go as this guy had given us the directions. And so instead of life being a plan, it became a scramble. Trying to find the circle line, the district line, trying to find my way all up and down that way and get around back over to Oxford Square, Oxford Station, get off there and find that little wee walk to Piccadilly Circus. But amazingly, we found it all. We did it all. It worked out fine. We got there 5 minutes early. But I was not feeling happy. This was not part of my plan. Well, I tell you this little story because this is what life is like. We may want to make our plans. We may want to be in control of what goes on and how it shall go on and what we shall do and how we shall do it. But if we follow Jesus, we have to understand a very important principle. And that is this. Jesus is in control. God is in control. We are not in control. We can make our plans. Yes, there's nothing wrong with making our plans. There's nothing wrong with thinking, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. That's not a bad thing at all. But you have to do it not in pride, but in humility. You have to live a life that says, yes, I have my plans, but how it shall come to pass is up to God. In Texas, we had an expression that said, this is what's going to happen. The Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. See? This is what it means to follow Jesus. It means to say, okay, I have my plans, I got my thoughts, but I understand there's a greater power. I understand there's a greater love. I understand there's a Savior who is walking with me. I understand all of those things, and I understand that what goes on in my life may or may not come out the way I thought it would be. And in fact, as we live our lives, we will find ourselves in many, many Piccadilly pickles. As we went through this trip in Europe and all the places, we had quite a few more Piccadilly pickles along the way. But I just love that expression because that expresses what happens to you in life when you think that you know what's going to happen, when you think you know what will be the case, when you think you are in control, and you also happen to think you're following Jesus. The two don't go together. Either you're following Jesus or you're not following Jesus. Either you're letting Him guide or you're not letting Him guide. What does that mean in specific terms? To me, it means three basic wonderful things that we need to keep in mind. First of all, if you follow Jesus, you cannot jump ahead. You can't jump over God. You can't say, I'm going to jump over God and make all my little plans and it's all good. You can't do that. Only God gets to plan your life. You don't get to plan it. It's as simple as that. You do not get to plan the ultimate outcome of it. There will be things that will happen to you that will shock you. Just like I was shocked that there was a strike on the line that I had depended upon. Every day of your life, you're going to find places in your life where shocks come. Things are going to happen that you never dreamed would happen. Things are going to come upon you that you never thought would come upon you. Things are going to happen to your families, to your loved ones. Things that you just never could even envision. Do you think Jesus does not know about that? He knows about all of that. What you got to do is relax and say, okay, Lord, you're in control. I made my plans, but that's not important. You're the one that's in control, and if this is what's going to happen, well, then we're going to scramble like we never scrambled before. Because, Lord, you're going to lead us around the way we need to go to get to where we need to be. That's what it means to follow Jesus. You can't jump ahead. You cannot do that. And secondly, you cannot deny the reality that you face. I can't believe, being a pastor here, I can't believe that knowing that Piccadilly line is closed, I went there anyway. You can't be closed. This can't be happening to me. I couldn't believe I did that now that I look back at it. But it was so important to me to go there and see if it was really, really true. How many times in life do things happen to us and we say, it can't be happening to me, this can't be going on, and we want to deny it. We want to deny the reality in which we live. We want to say, no, it can't happen to me, this can't be going on, that's not what it's all about. Listen, if you follow Jesus, you don't be afraid about what's happened. Okay, this is what's taking place. This is what's going on. This is the reality. Face it. Believe that God has a different plan for you, and it is a good plan, whatever that might be. Understand this. That's what it means to follow Jesus. It doesn't mean to demand to Jesus, make it my way or else. No! Make it the way Jesus is making it. Be flexible. Go with the flow of who Jesus is putting in your life and what Jesus is directing you in and where He's leading you. That's what it means. Do not waste your time trying to deny that what is happening is happening. It is happening. And when it is happening, it's up to Jesus to lead you away or around beyond it, you see. And then the final thing it means, which I think is also very, very important, and I learned it that day. I'd learned it many times before too, but I learned it that day. And that is, you cannot lag behind Jesus. You can't sit there in bitterness and say, but my plan says this, and here's how I wanted it to be. You can't do that. You can't waste your life in bitterness. You can't waste your life sitting around saying, oh, I wish it had worked out this way, or I should have worked out that way. Listen to me. It's just like a subway stop. God gives you about 5 seconds to get on the train or be left behind. You don't have time to be mourning and grieving. Oh, I wish it would have been this way or that way. No. To follow Jesus is to get on the new train, whatever that train might be, and go to wherever it takes you, and then follow it to wherever God wants you to go. This is what it means to me to follow Jesus. It means we don't jump ahead. It means we don't try to deny it. And it means we don't lag behind. That's what it means to follow Jesus. But now, what about the second thing that I spoke about today? And that is, what can we expect? If we follow Jesus, what can we really expect our life to be like? Many want to say, oh, it's a bunch of blessings, it's all great. Well, yes, there will be blessings, and then there will be brokennesses. There'll be all kinds of things. What can we really expect if we follow Jesus? Well, I have another little story from our trip to England that I think helps to illustrate what we can expect if we follow Jesus in our lives. The first thing we did when we went there, the first day, one of the sights we went to see, and I just was so excited to see it, was the Tower of London, which is the most historic site in London. That's where the monarchy began. That was where the whole idea of the English royalty rose up. It was and it still is, a tremendous edifice that has within it so much history, so much of the things that have affected our Western world. It's a place of great power and influence that the English Empire has had over time. And of course, I don't want to go into all the detail of it, but there was a king by the name of Henry VIII, and the Tower of London really has a role to play in his great kingdom that he put together, in which he established the Anglican Church and broke away from the Catholic Church. But anyway, it was the place where he sent 2 of his wives to be executed, which I thought was sort of sad, but you got to actually see that. And you can see where they came in, the Gate of Traitors, and where they went to be executed. There was so much history there, I couldn't even begin to describe. And the crown jewels are kept there, and you get to go in and see all of these rubies and emeralds and diamonds and gold. All of it celebrating the power of the Kingdom of Britain. And it really is an awesome experience to see that. And we spent some time there enjoying it and taking thousands of pictures and enjoying all that there was to be. And so after we finished that and had seen all of that that was going on there in the tower, it was time to leave. And so as we were getting ready to leave, well, as it often happens, nature called, and it was time to find a WC, or a loo, or a bathroom, as we might call it here in the United States. So Rebecca and I, we were walking around looking at the signs, WC this way, WC that way, and we finally found the WC area. And we split up into our separate lines. Rebecca went this way, and I went that way, and we were going about our business. But as I was standing in the line, I realized it wasn't moving very fast. Rebecca had already disappeared. So I was like, okay, we're going to go. A lot of men need to go to the restroom today. So I stood there, and pretty soon, all of a sudden, here was Rebecca finished. I was shocked. Never in my life has a woman been finished before I have. Never, 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 never. But here I was still standing in this stupid line. So we went forward, and we went forward, and then we turned the corner, and there was even a longer line there. And I was like, what is the deal here? This is beginning to be un-American, I do believe. But finally I got close enough to where I could see the WC there. It was one little door. It said WC men. And the men were going in one at a time. And I was like, what is the problem here? One at a time, why are they doing that? But anyway, we waited and waited. It was a good thing because it was just about to become time to be there. I do believe it. So when I got there and I had my chance to open the door, and so I opened it to go in, and it was the tiniest little room I have ever seen in my life for a bathroom. There was one stall in there. One stall. Oh, that's all there was. That's why there was only one man going in at a time. That's all that you could handle in that little bitty room. So I did my business and thought, man, this is kind of ridiculous here at this world-class site to have this little bitty bathroom with only one stall in it. Do they know what men need? And so as I turned around to leave and reached the knob to open the door to go back outside, I looked up, and right above there, somebody had put the sign to get across the subtle British humor that they were trying to get across. It said, "Long live the Queen." I understood that. We men think that we are superior and privileged. We should have all the toilets in the world and everybody else should just wait. But in England, I guess because the Queen's ruled for 50 years, that's not the case, especially not at the Tower. At the Tower you learn the lesson, and that is what it feels like to be a second-class human being that doesn't have enough toilets, you see. And as I left, I had to chuckle to myself. Yes, indeed, long live the Queen. Yeah, it was a great lesson there, taking a tinkle in the tower, as I said. But this is what I think we can expect if we follow Jesus, you see. What happens when we follow Jesus is that He takes us into those experiences where we are shown the truth, that we are not as superior as we thought we were. He takes us into those experiences in which we think we are not as privileged, where we understand we're not as privileged as we think we are. He takes us into those experiences and situations where we learn that we are not the masters of our destiny and we are not the ones who rule this world, but that it is Jesus who does that. It is God who does that. And we need to understand that being superior, being privileged, and looking down on others in the human race needs to stop. In fact, I say it this way, all the world needs to take a tinkle in the tower. Think about how much better our world would be if people would get off of their high horses, thinking they have the right to judge others, thinking they have the right to criticize others, thinking that their way is the only way, thinking that we have to do it this way or we have to do it that way. How much better would our world be if we were put in our place of understanding that humbly we are children of God, we are not God, you see. And so all throughout my trip to Europe and even to this day, I still think of this truth, that this is what you can expect if you follow Jesus. You're not going to get rich. You're not going to be healthy for all of your days, but you can expect this if you follow Jesus. You're going to be shown the difference between being a selfish, self-centered person and what it's like to give your life to others, to give your life to love, to give your life to helping others in this world. That you can expect if you follow Jesus. He will transform you into that. He will change you into that. And you will understand two important things. Number one, who you are not. And number two, who you really are. You see, that's what you can expect when you follow Jesus. You'll understand that you are not God, and you'll understand that you are meant to be a child of God. Well, to sum it up then today, these are the two things I think we need to understand when we follow Jesus. We need to understand that these are the two things we can expect, and this is what it means to follow Jesus. Since we're talking about England, there was an English writer that wrote an interesting book, Jane Austen's name. It was a book about law among the gentility in England in the Georgian era. And it's a great book, and I don't talk about the content of that book. It's the title of that book that really struck me when I thought about it. The title of that book was Pride and Prejudice. These are the two things that are so important to keep in mind that we need to lose, and we lose them when we follow Jesus. We lose our pride of thinking we can control, plan, and dominate life, and we lose our prejudice toward all others in this world. Losing our pride, losing our prejudice, experiencing the Piccadilly pickles, taking a tinkle in the tower. This is what it's all about to follow Jesus. And so, if we understand that then, we can open our hearts and our eyes, and we can accept the invitation that Jesus gives us. We can accept it and understand more fully what it means and what we can expect when Jesus says to us, follow me. Amen. Amen.